Hi, welcome to Petradot, and in this lesson we are going to be learning the for loop. In our previous lessons we said that the loop is used to repeat a block of code or an action until a certain condition is met. We also said that we also learned about the while loop and the do while loop, where we say that the while loop and the do while loop is used mostly when the number of iteration is unknown, right? We also gave a difference between the while loop and the do while loop, where we say that the do while loop, while it is iterating, allows you to carry out the action at least once before the condition is checked, which is what we have here. You can see this is the do while loop here. We say that it carries the action, which is the do here, once. We used a gameplay scenario whereby before a player will be asked if he wants to play a game again, he must have played it for the first time. So after playing it, it will now come and check if he still wants to play it again. And if his response is yes, it goes back to repeat the loop, right? So the do while loop performs the action once before going to the next one. That is the difference between the do while loop and the normal while loop. So for the for loop is used mostly when the number of iteration is known, right? Or when you want to iterate over a collection in Java. Don't worry, we are going to discuss more on what a collection is in the future. Right, so the structure for writing a for loop in Java is something like this: for bracket open, then inside the bracket we have three statements in it, which the first one is initialization, then separate it with a semicolon. Then the next one is the condition to by which the loop should continue. Then the next one is the increment that changes or updates the variable that is used to make sure that this loop is either it should continue or not, increment or decrement. All right, then outside the bracket you have the block of code that should be running while this loop still remains true, right? While this condition still remains true. All right, so let's test run this loop now using just to print a range of values from 1 to 5, right? So we are going to define it, which is for bracket open, and we say that it has three statements inside it, the initialization. So we initialize the counter that should be doing this, which is int count, for example, or okay, yes, let's use count. Int count equal to 1 semicolon, count is less than or equal to 5 semicolon, then count plus plus. We should be updating our variable. So to explain this, first of all, we created a variable here, int count. Then we came here and say if count still remains is less than 5, carry out this action, and after carrying it out, increment count by 1. When you increment it by 1, come and check count again. Is count still less than 5 after incrementing it by 1? If it is true, carry out this block of code again. That is what will keep happening until this iteration reaches 5, right? That is because we already know that this loop will run 5 times. That is why we say that the for loop is used when the number of iteration is known. So we already know that this loop will run exactly 5 times, except there is another condition inside here that is going to make this loop to stop, which could be a break, right? But we're going to talk about halting a loop or interrupting a loop in the future using the break, the continue, and other ones, right? So but for now, just understand the things we explained here, which is the initialization, the condition, and the increment or decrement. So at this point now, let us print out this count as we are incrementing it and checking the conditions, which is system.out.println count. So let's save and run this code and see. you can see now that we have our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here printed. So it looped and printed they carried out the action 5 times. Okay, let's assume we want to iterate over a collection. Though I said we are going to treat collection in the future, but it is important to understand how it works. So just giving you a brief definition about it. Collection is just a group of items. So it's just a variable that is holding more than one value. Normally we say that we declared a variable that we say that to declare a variable, that a variable is used to hold a single item. For example, string book is equal to book title, right? So this is an example of a single variable holding a single value. But now we want to create a collection, which is also called an array in Java, which is a single variable holding multiple values. And to do that, when you declare a variable, you follow it by a block bracket, these two block brackets here. That means our book is no longer going to hold single item. That is why it's showing error here. So we'll call it books. So now we are going to create multiple items, multiple values. So we'll have our book 1, book 2 to book 5. But the program is going to assume that it doesn't know the length, the number of items in this array when we are going to be printing this, running this our array loop, right? So what we want to do now is we want to check the books that is in our shelf and print out their title so that we'll take a record of all of them. Hence what we want to print for the user on the screen, on the output, right? So but we cannot just hard code the length of the array because we don't know the actual length. So what are we going to do? An array already gives us a method to check for the length, right? Don't worry if this is a bit confusing. Remember, this is not our core lesson today. I'm only using it so that we'll be able to explain this looping over a collection. That is the reason why I'm trying to explain what an array is, and this method dot length. So we are using this to get the length of this book, so that this array will already know the number of iteration to make by getting the length of the book, right? So we are going to start looping from index 0, right? And we are going to be doing count less than books dot length, so that we don't don't go and access the wrong index. Don't worry about that. Just know that whenever you want to iterate through an array, you should start from the 0 index and make sure it is less than the array dot length. So let's try to print out each book title right now. So we are going to have our count. Let's print it out this way. We say index count is equal to, index count is going to be book at position count. Get me each of the book at position count. Sorry, we are supposed to concatenate this. Yes. So let us run this program and see. You can see it now. So index 0 has book 1, index 1 has book 2, 2 has book 3. That's the way. So we have printed all the books in our shelf using our array. So to recap, the for loop is used most especially when you want to iterate over a range of values or a collection, which is same as an array. So it is used when the number of iteration is known. And this will be the end of our lesson today. So if you have any question, do well to use the comment section, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you.